Hi, I'm Chris from airwindows, and you might have noticed I've been a little busy lately. I've got like 18 plugins that I'm working on. One of them is the amazing iron oxide, which, if all goes well, and I don't see any reason why it shouldn't, we have finally hit the point where I'm starting to put out the for-pay Kagi shareware plugins that supported airwindows for like 10 years of operating as a commercial venture. And that's pretty exciting. And that's going to be the beginning of May if I'm still over $600 a month at the beginning of May. But that's not to say that I can't still do other stuff, and here's a beautiful example. I'd like to show you a plugin called Loud. What this is yet another kind of distortion. It's all about the kinds of distortion. As you know, everybody is selling different kinds of distortion. This one's a little unusual. And the reason is, it is a kind of distortion that operates differently based on whether the air is compressing or expanding. It'll essentially compress differently, and then when the pressure is released, it'll snap. Well, I can just show you. Why don't I just show you? So, a little bit of sound here. And I turn it on with no boost. And you can hear it's not hurting the tone at all. But, see, this is a clipper, so there's a certain amount of grind. I can subdue that by pulling back the output level so that we have a little more freedom to push it. Oh, by the way, this is a newer piece of music. I got bored of just playing Alien Kittens over and over and over again, but I still have it, so I'll show you what this sounds like on it. But firstly, loud boost. It stands out real nice. This one works very well for saturated tones, intensities. But what we can do is push it beyond the beyond. Here, let me turn it down so that you can hear what I say. I get complaints about the background music being too loud, even though that is what you're supposed to be listening to. Here, I'll turn it way down, and then let's trash it beyond all manner of trashed. Want to hear what that sounds like? I'll show you. Notice we have a vaguely similar tonal balance out of it this way. And you can hear that's not your normal distortion, but you can also hear it's trashed so heavily that it's unrecognizable. So now that's pretty severely trashed. Of course, we can use the dry wet to bleed in just a little bit of this effect, but let's go back to the fully trashed part. And then let's explore some medium settings. Now it's interesting the way this works, the way that it distorts differently as the air is getting compressed versus as the air is getting released. In that we have two separate distortion factors offset by the entire size of the audio if it was being clipped to 1 to -1. Upshot is this is not going to function anything like just your generic ordinary clipper. In fact, I can demonstrate that quickly by throwing on just your generic ordinary clipper, or at least a nice version of one. Say, we'll try density 2. Don't mind me moving stuff around a little bit. And we'll shut that off, and we'll shut that off, and we'll put them to fairly comparable levels. Now that's what it sounds like. That's what it sounds like to distort a electric device. It's like a tube or something. Density acts like a big fat tube distortion, very soft. Loud is a little different. The reason it sounds the way it does is because loud was made out of my studies of sound recordings of giant nitro and jet-powered tractor pulls. I decided I was going to analyze what happens to sound when you're blasting it beyond all recognition, like disaster area concert, 5 nitromethane dragster engines put in a big old tractor, that kind of thing. And I was going to explore what the waveforms were able to do at that volume, what air can do when you just blast it beyond anything you can comprehend. And you can hear the difference. That is your ordinary device being distorted. This is more like, it's more like air being distorted, and that's what makes loud special. You just don't get the same thing with typical types of distortion, such as this. Pull it back a little bit. You can hear how sort of thrashed it sounds. And it's just squashed. It doesn't sound especially deep. Whereas that one sounds more like air distorting, because that's what I did to make it happen, is emulate the behavior of what I was finding in those crazy sound files of, like competitive tractor pulls using all these crazy engines and things, the kind that just blow up in the middle of the track. And since it's going at 2 miles an hour, it doesn't hurt anybody. But anyhow, I studied that. And at this intensity of distortion, it's kind of like, that's kind of like impossibly loud 3 million decibels, because this is designed so that you can thrash anything. Background tracks, stuff that's a little sparser, doesn't matter. But you can back it off to make it a little more normal sounding. And you can hear it's kind of, you hardly even notice it's doing anything until I turn it off. And then I turn it back on. I'll show you in a couple of other little tracks, and then I'll get back to my work because I have lots of other plugins to do. This is the one that I'm doing for Sunday, April 23rd. Here's a little track called Something Anything. It's a little drier, it's older. The studio stuff wasn't quite as on point there. Now if I distort this one, you're really hearing it on the guitar there. I can cut it in and out like this. The drums are a lot more punchier that way. Now that was a big sounding drum head. Let's show you what it sounds like Here's what it sounds like without loud on. It gave a certain amount of additional edge and stuff to it. Here's another little example. This is our little Stealth Kit jam. This one has huge bass, so when we throw loud on this, it kind of explodes. In fact, we want to explode, let's push it even farther. A little crazy there. We're definitely hearing that on that loud tambourine. And what the hell? Let's go over to Alien Kittens, shall we? Everybody knows what this sounds like. I've been using it for years. So with that, that's what it sounds like. And let's throw the boost on. It's distorting in this kind of special way because of all the low bass I have in here. And then we can thrash it. Now notice an interesting thing. The sheer lowness of that sort of whoomph in there is a very aggressive kind of sound. It's really sort of shaking the subwoofers. And this is everything all mixed together, so you can hear what it sounds like. And this plug-in loud gives you a little hint of what it would be like just sort of blasted through a PA system. And you do get a big sense of how loud that is. And then we can use the dry wet. So what we get is a kind of blend that brings some of the feel of just a huge PA stack and the sound of air being mangled, blended with the output. And the dry wet of that is like this. And you can push 3 dB of gain off of this. In fact, less. Because the way the output level works, we can go full wet, it's still not going to distort. Its loud is essentially a kind of clipper. It might not work just like every clipper, but it's a kind of clipper, so it does this. Sorry. Well, not really sorry. Point being, you can bring some of that in to lift up the rest of the sound without going into overs. In fact, I can bring it just down tiny here, and then when I put it like that, it'll actually pull back from the overs a tiny bit. And it'll go like this. Maybe that's too much. Loud is audio unit Mac MPC VST, and it is free because it is supported by my Patreon, the same Patreon that has recently gone to a, well, let's be frank, it's not as good as when I was doing the commercial stuff, but I was doing the commercial stuff in a particular kind of way, and I've started doing this for serious reasons that I care about. So the Patreon has got to the point of $600 a month, and that means I can start putting out not only this kind of stuff, but also things like iron oxide and the ones that have been waiting to reach that threshold. You know, 2-tape, bus colors, a lot of stuff that I sold many copies of. Oh, and it's not actually iron oxide 4 that's going to come out, it's iron oxide 5. I managed to make the second most popular plugin that I've ever sold sound just a little bit better than the previous one. And that's going to be free too, but this one's free right now. And I really hope you enjoy Loud. I certainly do. Thanks. Talk to you later.